Okay, it's 5:30. Okay, we will call this meeting of the Natrona County Parks Advisory Board to order. Today is Thursday, April 11th. We'll have a roll call to get started.
Rob Hill, present.
Jim Miller, present.
Doug Irvin, present.
Cordell Wistison, present.
Michael Brown, present.
Dave North, present.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll all stand and flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes of the last March meeting. Do I have a motion to approve or discuss?
I move that we accept the minutes as stated in the brochure.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, then that is approved. Then we're on to reports from the Parks Director, Michael.
All right, thanks. Like always, I'll start on the mountain. The Casper Mountain Trail Center construction should be beginning anytime. They have not mobilized yet as of this afternoon to the site, probably due to the quantity of snow. As far as I know, I haven't heard any delays about the building coming up the 1st of May, but so that's still on track. And I haven't seen a revised project schedule changing dates, so as far as I know, they're still on track, but I think they'll have to play some catch up. There's plans, a group, and Jim might be able to speak more to it, but that's raised some money to add a fireplace back into the lodge. That, as far as I know, is going to be it was discussed at the last commissioner work session. There was a presentation with a rendering of it. There'll be further discussion at the next work session, which is Tuesday. Don't have a time yet, but it'll be in the afternoon. I've been requested to be in attendance as well as the architect. So that's moving along as best as I know it is. So yeah, the Nordic Lodge site, the parking is closed for the season. That's because I was expecting the contractors to be in there April 1st. I know they put a construction trailer up there, so that's the only item on site right now. So any questions on the trail center or?
Comment, I am glad that they are considering putting the fireplace in. I thought that was a big loss to not have.
Yeah. So hopefully that'll come together and we can work through that. I know they've raised quite a bit of money, the public has, for that. And I think that's been a big push by the Casper Nordic Club. I think they're kind of spearheading that maybe, or is that not quite right?
I'm not sure that they headed that out. I think it was a group of people that headed that. We were just told about it and whatnot.
They just kind of partnered with you guys to work through it, or?
Yeah, I think that's, they had to have a place to put the money.
Okay.
And I think that's where they had a place that the money could be that was raised. And so it's a group of people that thought that they needed to have a fireplace in there and went forth with it. And the money is there to do the additional work. So there's no cost to the county and whatnot. So.
So I'll move on to camping. Obviously, I've stated this several times. All camping on the mountain is closed for the 2024 season due to the road construction. I don't have much update on the road construction. I know there's going to be pre-construction meeting, coming up soon with the contractor, and after that, we should have more information. And my staff is planning on, once the snow clears out, to start working on the campsites at Bear Trap. We're gonna improve those and make them better. A little bit bigger, a little easier to get in and out of, level them out, so you don't have to have a whole stack of timbers to level your camper there.
Is that meeting gonna be held at your place?
What's that?
Is the meeting gonna be held at your place or the?
I don't
construction-
know where the pre-construction meeting is gonna be held yet, so I'm not
Is
sure.
that open?
Typically, the pre-con meetings usually aren't. It's the contractors or subcontractors. Federal Highway would probably be there. Road and Bridge would be there, and they invited me to be there. Just so I can pass on the information to our lodge contractor so he understands any implications the road construction has on him getting supplies and whatnot up to the site.
Will you pass that word that you get from them on to us?
Yes. Yep. And I know Road and Bridge is planning a public meeting. He's met with the BLM to kind of group together on that publicity about the road construction for the season. So that'll be coming fairly soon, probably in the next few weeks. I would expect there'll be a public meeting held probably at the Ag Building or someplace like that. So I submitted a Wyoming Outdoor Rec grant for to help fund the additional bear trap shelters and help fund our campsite improvements. Hoping to hear back from that soon. I believe Hell's Half Acre was also a county project that was submitted to get some funding there, as well as Platte River Gun Club, the shooting range out on 12 Mile. They want to do some improvements there. So those are the three county applications in there. Now, they said you could apply for up to $500,000. However, it sounds like there's only $1.7 million to go around. So there's a lot of people asking for funds to improve things. I know Rails to Trails was there. Austin Burgess with CWTA for some of his, I think his Mike Cedar project, the bike track and the pump track or whatever they call it. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Maybe we'll get some funds to help with our projects. There with the bear trap shelter, there was a pre-bid meeting yesterday. We had 4 contractors show up to that. And I will be opening the bids and reviewing those with the engineer on April 25th. And then providing a recommendation to the county commissioners as to which one we should go with. And if it goes over budget, then there'll be a request to fund the project anyway. So that's coming forth. That's all I have for the mountain. Well, the other thing that's not on the agenda is I've been, some folks have reached out about the archery range and how it's maintained and who maintains it and whatnot. So I looked into it some. The county owns the property. The county is, I guess, fiscally responsible for it and the maintenance of it. However, for several years, I think it's Lost. And if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it's Lost Arrows Archery Club that has done a lot of the target work and kept the shooting lanes open and done a lot of the maintenance on the target lines and whatnot. And so I have a note to reach out to them. And I may, if I can, I'm going to try and get some funds allocated during this budget cycle to replace some, at least start replacing some of the targets. I don't think we can do them all, but we can start making steps to do that. So, yeah, that's all I have on the mountain.
Any questions for Michael?
Can I just add something on the mountain? Just for the information, basically, is they're having a adventure
Venture Day.
Venture Day up at the mountain at the Biathlon Center Saturday from 9 till 2, I believe.
Yeah.
So there'll be kids all going up there to ski, to mountain bike, to laser shoot and build snowmen and
Yeah, I
big
believe-
end of the year type.
Yeah, the BLM's part of that. I believe the county sheriff's department's part of that. It was supposed to happen last Saturday, but winter weather caused Winter Adventure Day to be canceled. So, which is fairly typical for Casper Mountain. So,
Michael, real quick on the camping, will there be any day use, weekends, anything?
so
or-
yeah, the mountain's still open to day use.
Okay.
Which if you want to hike, bike, walk, that type of use is still available. Parking's going to be very limited. Obviously, the lodge parking's closed. Skunk Hollow parking is going to be even more limited depending on when the road construction goes, because they're going to use that as a detour. And so obviously you can't have parking at that intersection if you're detouring traffic back and forth through there. And then Bear Trap parking, I believe they're gonna keep the parking right there by the meadow open, but the road contractor's gonna use the other side of the road for staging as well as up by the gravel pit. And if he needs the space, we'll give him priority to have that parking space. So really, the biathlon parking's about the most open parking on the mountain. And then obviously Crimson Dawn, I spoke with them about their event and told them about the potential for traffic delays. You know, if you get stopped at the Y to get up there. So just tell everybody to plan accordingly, give some more time to get to that event. It shouldn't affect it too much coming down because it'll be in the evening, but yeah, so.
Okay.
So yeah, the mountain's gonna be highly impacted between the road and whatnot, so.
Will Circle Drive be open?
Yes, however, this construction project goes all the way down to Circle Drive for the county, and then the BLM is having road work done from the intersection down at the bottom of Muddy up to their campsites. However, I understand they're gonna keep their camping open, which one of the big reasons we're closing our camping is the tight traffic, the construction, and hauling a trailer up through the traffic and just to mitigate any potential problems, a trailer breaking down, trailer getting stuck, potential for fire up there and evacuation. It just seemed the best case scenario for the county to close our sites so that we don't have to have traffic control at every camp entrance, which is costly. So that was our decision, but the BLM, I believe, is going to keep their campsites open. So.
Any other questions for Michael? Okay, on to the lakes.
Okay, so our water system in Alcova, my staff's out there working on it now. They've gone through the system, they've charged it, we've chlorinated it. We plan on having the water turned on Monday. However, it's likely it will be non-potable water until our tests come back, which could be Wednesday or Thursday. So, so we'll have our non-potable water signs up, but you can still use the water for flushing your toilet and showers and all that. So, so we're on schedule for that. The lot rents at Alcova for the trailers and the cabins and the clubs, those have been going out. Actually, we had our first payment received today. So the cabins went out. Most of the trailers have gone out. I think there's still, there's 255 invoices we got to send out. So my staff's been pretty busy prepping those and getting them mailed out. That rent under the lot permit is due May 19th. And it's always due May 19th. And, you know, there's a slight increase every year. But this year I'm pretty adamant about not taking any exceptions or extensions. You know, I've heard in the past, well, you used to They used to let us make payments and pay till October, and it's due May 19th every year. And so, we get our invoices out before the 30 days, so we expect payment May 19th. So we'll see how that goes this year. For example, last year I received our last full payment a week ago, even though it was due May 19th. So, and there is verbiage in these lot permits for penalties and for terminations and whatnot. So, if you can afford to have a trailer or a cabin, you should be able to pay your lot rent. So the dock reviews at the cabins. I am fielding lots and lots of questions. I met with the cabin board to kind of clarify some things. I requested everybody to provide me an email if they have a concern. There are a lot of concerns that are, some of the requests from the Bureau Rec seem unreasonable. And so I am putting together basically a report and coming up with suggestions to kind of meet in the middle. Now, meeting in the middle with the feds doesn't always go the way you want it to. So I'm at least putting forth the effort, and they all know that. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And that'll be an ongoing thing for several months, I expect. So, and I have a tracking sheet for everybody that comments, everybody that responds, everybody that complies, so that we can follow through and keep track of what's done and not done on those sites. Yeah, that's all I have there. Parks Rules Revisions, I spoke with County Legal. They're in the review process. I don't know how long that's gonna take before they are ready to talk to the commissioners about it and start a public comment period with advertisements and all of that. And that's the same for the camping fee increases, which I was hoping to get those before the season really got going, but obviously didn't. Other item at the lake is the camping reservation system. We turned on April 9th at 5:15. I had my staff stay later till about 5:45. I think we fielded about 10 or 12 phone calls. Yesterday we had one gentleman come in because he didn't get an actual receipt, and then somebody else was in there, so I took care of that, customer service wise, and satisfied him. And so it went pretty well. And I believe there was almost 700 transactions in like 45 minutes. So it seems to be the most fair option. So this is probably how we'll continue in years to come. So that's all I have.
Yeah, a few questions, Michael, just to understand a little bit. The cabin board is formed under
So
what authority?
the Alcova cabin permittees have created their own cabin owners association. And
Okay.
so they have a board, and they look over things. When we renewed the permits in 21, staff met with them, so they were part of the involvement in how that permit was reviewed and written, and so they had an understanding of it. So they're just a representation
Okay.
of, and I don't think all the cabin owners are members of the association. They'd like them to be, but it's just a sounding board for all of them, and they can, they gather some funds, and they bring a roll-off dumpster out every May, usually between Mother's Day and Memorial Day, I think, to allow the cabin owners to clean up their sites without having to haul everything to town.
Okay.
And trim limbs and whatnot. So they do things like that for the group, and I think they have other, I don't know if they have other events. I know they have an annual meeting.
Okay.
Trailer Park at Alcova has the same thing. They have a trailer park association
Okay.
with the board too, to kind of, and they're more active. They set up, golf cart parades and, they have a barbecue with everybody there and things like that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then just a quick follow-up on that kind of topic. So you have 255 invoices that go out. How is the fees on that calculated? Is it assessed value or is it
So there
blanket?
was a appraisal done in 2012
Okay,
that the county paid for. The Bureau Rec adopted that, and since then, those rates have gone up. Based off, I think it's the Consumer Price Index, and it may be the Wyoming something for the trailer park, but those rates were determined from that appraisal, and then they've gone up every year. So, and those are calculated for every 5 years when the lot permit is renewed. So in
Okay.
21, we determined what those rates were, and instead of following a consumer price index every year and adjusting every year, I was able to have the Bureau Rec approve a fixed escalator rate, similar to what State Parks does.
okay,
And it's based off the State Parks model, and that was 1.5%. So since
Okay.
21, it's gone up 1.5% every year.
okay,
And we'll renew those permits in 26, and we'll reevaluate, and I'll work to get an escalator rate, a fixed escalator rate, instead of fluctuating it every year. It's better to have a fixed rate so everybody understands how it steps up every year.
thank you.
I have a question. Because of it being what it is, then who pays a property tax to the county? Do they send out a separate bill to each of the landowners?
So it's a little unique out there because the ground is owned by the Bureau Rec, so it's federal ground. So we're not collecting property tax there. I do believe the county collects property tax for the physical structure, the cabins, and any physical structures that are at the marina, the boat club, and the ski club. However, I think mobile homes are taxed differently, and I'm not sure how that works. But it's on the actual structure, it's not on the property itself, so.
So the structure is taxed by the county individually, each and
Yes.
every one, to
Yes.
the whoever is the leasee.
Yes. And actually, it's whoever owns the cabin. So the permittee may be two individuals, but the cabin may be in an LLC or a trust.
I got you.
You
Yeah.
know, County Parks doesn't really care who owns the structure. It's who's permitted to have the lot. And that needs to be an individual, so, or two individuals, up to two.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Michael? Michael, in the long-term plan out at the lakes, we completed the Diabase campground upgrade. What's the timeline and progression for looking at the other campgrounds that we had discussed in the long-term plan of doing a similar upgrades?
So that really depends on funding. I was planning on trying to get one of those projects up and going in this last fiscal year. However, the budget that I was approved to use did not have funds to do that. We really need to build a new maintenance shop, for a lot of reasons. And so that's, kind of a top priority for, funding at the lake, as well as, we have conceptual plans, for the other two campgrounds from Diabase to the dam, Sage and Weiss. Those would probably be the ones that would be done next. I would like to do West Side, do some kind of improvement there and get it in a reservation plan because it typically has the most problems, and conflicts between, campers there. So, it might be a good idea to designate sites, spread people out a little bit, to alleviate some of those problems, which I believe law enforcement would be on board with me on that one, so.
Thank you. Any other questions for Michael?
You know if they've plowed the bear trap picnic area loop yet?
No,
Or do you plan to?
Probably not yet. So my staff has been making sure that, the slash pile's open. It's gonna be burned this Saturday. What's that? No, the 13th. Yep, the 13th. So this Saturday. So they're doing some final touches tomorrow on that. And then Struby Loop has been, plowed out. And the reason for that is to get it, start helping it dry out as quick as we can for the road construction detour. And it was surprising how deep some of the snow is down there below the rail trail. My groomer said it was up to the mirrors on the groomer, which is about 8 feet, and they just pushed it as far as they could get down to the ice later, so that because with a front loader, it would take you forever. And so our big cat was able to move a lot of that snow to get that started to dry out. And I haven't heard, I don't know if something I need to talk about, and Cordell might help with this, is the Lions Club and any rail trail improvements, how that, we'll have to definitely coordinate that for access with all the road construction there.
I think there's some bridges that they want to put in early June.
Yeah, so depending on how that detour is set up, we may have to work on that, because the way I envision that detour through Struby Loop is they're gonna take traffic one way, clear them all, and then they're gonna have traffic go the other way. So if people are parked at the rail trail, off to the side, they're not gonna know which direction to go. And so we don't wanna have that conflict. So that'll definitely be something that'll have to be coordinated, probably through Road and Bridge for the most part there.
When we do the construction like that, I'll talk to the guys, tell them to make sure that we pull inside the Braille Trail as much as possible on our Monday nights, and we may be very limited in working up there because of the construction.
Yeah, and there's a potential that this would be run by a pilot car, but in the later hours, it may be by a signal light, so it might be hard to tell which way you need to go.
We'll have four-wheelers and a wiki-tiki.
Yeah, yeah.
Go this way.
Is there any new news on Hellsap Acre, Michael?
So I went out there yesterday. Yeah, yesterday, with my staff, and we looked at it. We're still waiting on the grant money. We do have the rec board money for the potential boardwalk. I've got some new ideas for that. And I believe Kelly told me the meeting with Pathways is May 1st due to Rob Hill not being there's a new teacher doing that, and there's a brand new principal over there. So we're going to coordinate with them May 1st.
Any other board questions for Michael? Any general board comments?
Don't forget the public. Michael and Sarah's
Yep.
public.
And we do have the public here today, so now would be a time if anybody wants to come up for public comments. We'd love to hear from you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Sheila Jollahars, and I am a 43-year-old resident of Casper, Wyoming, born and raised. My fondest childhood memories are of me, my family, and our friends camping at Okie Beach at Alcova Lake. We would head out on a Friday night, pull into a spot, and set up camp with many campers and friends for the weekend, or sometimes a week, depending on where the holidays fell in that week. This all changed back in 2014 when the Parks and County Departments decided to reconstruct Okie Beach at Alcova, tearing up the land and trees that once resided there. The waterfront spots, coves, and trees that were once historic were gone. I cried when I took a trip out there to see it all before the season began that summer. Next came the price increases. When I was a kid, camping fees were $4 to $5 a night. They went up to $8 in the year 2012, went up again from $8 to $10 in May 2021, when the camping reservation system was put into place. Then prices were raised again in May 2022 from $10 to $12, and now, 2 years later, they're wanting to raise them again $3 more to $15 a night. My family and friends plan a 7 to 10 day camping trip every year around 4th of July to one of the local lakes. In 2022, it cost us around $500 to $600 to camp. That included $120 in camping fees, $200 in groceries, $100 to $200 in fuel for the boat and vehicles to pull the trailers. There used to be a 10-day coupon book offered at the Parks Department that we could buy for $75, and that is now not an option. My thought is, if you want to increase the prices, then please give people the option again to buy coupon books at a discounted rate. I would also like to address the camping reservation system. It is not working. People are reserving spots as soon as the reservation system opens, and they are not canceling them if they decide not to occupy them. I don't know about others, but we can't plan in April as to what we will be doing in July. There have been countless weekends I have driven by Okie Beach and not one single spot was occupied, even though it showed it on the reservation system. People are now resulting to going out days to a week in advance to find non-reservation spots, leaving their campers, tents, boat trailer, or whatever they have to occupy spaces unattended. Last August 2023, my family and I showed up to a spot past the ski club with a sailboat on a trailer with no license plates, no registration stickers, and a piece of wood that was holding one tire, leaving the trailer partially in the water. We called the sheriffs, to whom I spoke to both Bill and Chris, and they knew the owner and said he does it all the time. He didn't even pay for that spot and was hoarding it for days with an unlicensed trailer. All they did was make him come get it. That Sunday, it downpoured and water was rushing down the hill by our camp, and had that sailboat still been there, it would have washed away into the lake. Both sheriffs told me they are tired of the riffraff with the camping reservation system because it has caused people to fight over non-reservation spots, such as the ones past the marina. They even shared a story of the prior weekend where a person pulled a gun on another person over a non-reservation spot. These spots past the marina are beautiful with shaded coves like what Okie Beach used to have, and everyone wants to camp in them. People going out for just a day or during the week cannot find a decent spot because they are being hoarded by unattended campers, tents, or whatever other objects people can get away with to hold the spot for the upcoming weekend or holiday. I did speak to Mr. Brown recently on March 21st, and we had about a 45-minute conversation regarding my concerns. He stated he is a native from Casper, and he too remembers how it was as a kid versus now. He agreed things are a mess and said most of the issues are out of his hands, but he is trying to change them for the better. And thank you for that, because he has been. He told me he has 2 full-time maintenance workers for the parks year-round and hires 4 seasonal workers. That is only 6 workers to maintain all of these parks and campgrounds. The prices keep rising, but us local natives that camp regularly aren't seeing where this money is going. Campsites are not being maintained. There have been several times when we pull into a campsite and we have to clean it up before we can even set up a camp. And that usually includes cleaning out the fire pits. People need to be held responsible, but there aren't enough park rangers or sheriffs to man it. Park rangers should be checking campsites regularly and ticketing those that litter. They should ticket people who don't show up for their reservation and release it once they are a no-show. They should be ticketing people for leaving their property unattended to hoard spots or having their property towed. Sheriffs are no longer enforcing rules because they are tired of it all and can't keep up, and I quote Sheriff Chris, "We are understaffed, overwhelmed, and overworked." I was told the same from the gals from the Parks Department when I called to complain to them about the sailboat trailer that was left. They said to call the sheriff, in which the sheriff told me to call the Parks Department. I told Mr. Brown, if you don't have enough people to man the camping reservation system, then there shouldn't be one in place. His reply was, we have the camping reservation system to keep from the exchange of cash and to avoid the boxes from getting broken into. Life at the lake seemed a lot less stressful for all back when you could pull up to a spot, fill out a ticket, and put into the box with your money. Camping is no longer fun. What should have been a time to relax has turned into complete chaos and stress. I know so many people who camped regularly that no longer camp because it costs too much to do so, and they are aggravated with the camping reservation system. Putting the camping reservation system into place is where you lost money. That and only allowing 1 camper per site. Back in the good old days, we used to circle the wagons, putting 5 to 10 campers in one spot, paying $25 to $50 in camping fees per camper for 1 spot. Imagine how much money you would get if you allowed that again, charging $12 to $15 per camper per night. Mr. Brown did tell me he is working on drafting designated spots to fit 2 to 3 campers. Honestly, I only see that working on the shoreline at the Red Cove east of Okie Beach at Alcoba. Last year, my family and some friends went to Boysen Lake for a week during the 4th of July. We paid a lot of money in fuel to travel there and a lot in camping fees as well, but didn't have the riffraff and the chaos that you do at Alcoba and Pathfinder. Not to mention their camping reservation system actually works. They maintain the campsites, they cancel reservations if there are no-shows, and the park rangers and sheriffs even stop to check in to make sure everyone is doing good. There were even maintenance workers mowing the weeds in the cove where we were at to keep bugs and snakes away. I suggested Mr. Brown to call their parks department for suggestions on how to run it efficiently. You are trying to change our county parks to state parks, and these are just not state parks. Alcoba is too congested with people nowadays because of the overpopulation at Glendo and not enough water in Pathfinder Lake. Pathfinder is going to be even lower this season, considering we didn't get the moisture we usually get, so Alcoba is going to be twice as packed than it normally is. And this isn't just happening at the lakes. It is also happening at the campgrounds of Casper Mountain as well. I have a friend that had reserved a campsite at Bear Trap during the festival 2 years ago, and some people from out of state took his spot, and when he called the sheriff, he was told to figure it out. Something has got to give. I want my child to experience camping the way I did, and if it keeps going like this, that will never happen. Sorry. I dread what our lakes will look like in 20 years. Sorry. It breaks my heart, and I know I can speak the same for so many local natives who feel the same way. I plan to post this on social media abroad and have a room full of people here tonight that agree with me, but considering the recent loss of the local student and there being a candlelight visual tonight, I didn't want to take that away. I'm happy to email you a copy of my presentation. I do have pictures of the examples I shared and articles with dates for you to review at your leisure if you would like. I also plan to present this to the county commissioners next week in their meeting. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, please send that presentation. I will share it with the board. And, we're trying to work through it. One of the things the reservations does for us is we can red flag people, if we get a call that the site was full of litter or whatever. Last year I didn't have 4 seasonal caretakers. I had 2.
No, I understand.
And
It's
trying to hire
understaffed.
folks that are willing to work the weekends and clean out houses is becoming even more difficult. The state parks have a better funding model, I guess, and recruitment process. For example, I don't know if Boysen, if they have housing for them or not. Yeah, I'm trying to make it work. The reservation system, I don't believe is gonna go away. As you said, Boysen had that reservation system. We are trying to keep the costs as low as we can, but, just my operational cost, the $10 didn't pay for that. And I believe it was actually in 2008, 2010, they went from $7 to $10. And then the reason they went to $12 is the state required us to collect lodging tax and sales tax on campsites.
Yeah, what I did was I went to Google and I pulled up any time that the prices increase, and so I do have that all here for you too. Not saying that your dates are wrong or anything, but I did go back and look, and I did see that about they were wanting to do lodging tax, so you went from $10 to $12.
Yeah, and I know.
But the Oil City quote had said it was since 2012, and I'm like, it's increased since then. It wasn't 2012 when the last increase happened. It was literally within the last, what I put in my statement, in May 2021, and then again in 2022. So I was just like, wait a second. Of course, I know that sometimes media doesn't get things right, so.
Yeah, and so the camping fees are going to be put out for public comment. And they'll be advertised, and that's a decision by the county commissioners whether to raise those or not.
Okay.
So you have sounding boards along the way to get there, and I do appreciate you coming here and talking to these folks, because.
Yeah, you invited me and I appreciate that. You told me about this meeting, and so I wanted to definitely come. Like I said, I reached out to a bunch of camping friends, and so many people had things going on tonight, and then this vigil, it was hard. I was like, well, okay. And I do, have a couple people here that I don't know if they want to speak, but,
Well, this meeting's every month, so.
yeah,
And it's open to the public,
sure.
so.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Can I ask you a
Thank you for
question?
showing.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just 2 quick ones. Do you think it's used more now than it was 20 years ago? Or, okay. And then, so do you think
I
it's-
have I'm sorry, I had to interrupt you. I have pictures of what it looked like in 2011 at Okie Beach, and it just breaks my heart to see how dead it is. You just can't fit people anymore with these. And then I heard you guys saying you're talking about doing it to the west side. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like there's just making them designated and taking out all those trees and taking out the scenery has been horrible. I mean, birds used to be everywhere on Okie Beach, and we don't get that anymore. We don't, everything is just so communistic, it feels like. And it just, every year we go for, we would go for the 4th of July, and we go for my birthday weekend at the end of August, and it's sad. It really is.
So do you feel one of the main issues is enforcement? Is that different than in the past, or what's the difference between now and then?
Well, to be honest, you have, back in the day, I was camping as a kid, we had overhead campers on trucks, and me and Mr. Brown talked about this. Now you have 39, 40-foot trailers, and back then we could fit 5 to 10 trucks with campers on the back, and now you can only fit 3 big campers, and and I'm guilty of it too. We have a big camper that we don't really need. And, so I just, it's not enough space to put campers, in, 2021, I believe it was. We had a big birthday weekend I had a big birthday weekend, at Alcova at the Red Cove. And I even mapped it all out, which I have here, of where people could go based on how big their campers were and stuff. And we got there and we had to rearrange it. And we ended up having to circle the wagons, so to speak, along the shoreline. We had 3 or 4 of the bigger campers, and then we had all the little campers up top. And the park rangers came down that weekend and said, "You guys can't do this." And I said, "I'm really sorry. I mapped this out. You can see my map. I had it all out for him." And I said, "We couldn't fit all this." And I said, I understand you guys don't really allow circling the wagons, but it doesn't work now, especially with these bigger campers. And, so many people are resulting over to Pathfinder. Well, that's getting crowded. And now that Pathfinder just hasn't had the water the last couple summers, people just aren't going. I have friends that go every year, and the last 2 years they said, "We don't go because we don't want to deal with the riffraff at Alcova, and there's no water at Pathfinder." You have to walk literally 1.5 to 2 miles down to the water at Pathfinder, and no one wants to do that, So I don't know, and it's not as busy camping wise. Day use, I think, is super busy at Okie Beach. I see, 50 vehicles come out with their boats just for the day, and then everybody leaves because people just don't want to camp anymore. And it's sad. It's so, so sad. And like I said, I have pictures here of what Okie looked like in 2011 versus now. Completely bare. Last August, I was talking about the camping reservation system. For my birthday weekend, I went online and I was like, gosh, there's like no spots at Okie as usual. So we just went out there to find a spot, and every single spot, I took pictures, I have them in here, every single spot was empty. Nobody was there the whole weekend. We drove over there just to see, and they were reserved online, but they were not filled. And it just was so frustrating because I was like, well, we could take a chance and pull into one, but if somebody shows up, we have to leave. And I don't want to set up and have to leave. And then so that's when we went down to this other one that had this sailboat sitting there. And it just, that's what I'm trying to say is if you're going to have a camping reservation system, you've got to enforce it. You've got to have your park rangers out there. If they're not showing up, no show them, cancel it so somebody else can get out there. I think we were talking that they're talking about changing it from a 7-day cancellation to only a 1-day cancellation. Well, that doesn't even give the next person enough time to get out to the lake to, and I don't know how it even works with the 7-day cancellation. Trying to get your money back, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Right now it's like you have to cancel in 7 days or you don't get your money back. Well, now he's saying that they're going to let you do up to 1 day and not to get your money back. But if that's canceled, then the next person that wants to book it a couple days in advance for the weekend misses that opportunity because it gets canceled, say Thursday or Friday of the weekend. So I don't know what's right and wrong. It bothers me. It's not like how it used to be when I was a kid. You could literally go on a Friday night, pull up into a spot, get a spot, and then, have everybody around you. And it's just not like that anymore. In Boysen, we were at this one cove. It was on Tamarask, and we were at the very end, and there was this cove, and it was perfect. Like I said, they had it all weeded. It was, they go and spray as well, for bugs and stuff like that. And so, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to spend $50, you know, a day or a night to camp there, but at least, you know, I'm not gonna deal with bugs, I'm not gonna deal with snakes, I'm not gonna, you know, you don't have the fighting because Boysen is a huge lake. I camped there many, our vacation was actually going to Boysen Lake for 2 weeks at a time as a kid. And, you know, it's so spread out that you don't have the chaos. Alcova unfortunately is smaller. It's a recreational lake, so that's where everybody wants to go. So I don't know. I want to help, you know, I have lots of camping friends that have been around for a long time. They're natives. They want to help, try to figure something out. Like something's got to give. You know, and even the sheriffs, they're saying, oh, it's park rangers. And then the parks department say, well, it's the sheriffs. And it's like, well, who do we go to? Because this is just, it's getting out of hand.
And maybe I can clarify that. My seasonal caretakers are constantly under attack by the
Oh, sure.
public. And there's some of them that don't want to deal with the public, but my department doesn't like have carte blanche authorization to just tow something that's in
Right.
a place that it's not. And we're working on our relationship with the sheriff's department,
Mhm.
but it's, they're looking for, the the DUIs, the assaults. They're not worried about somebody having their dog on a leash,
Right.
but I don't have the staff to babysit everybody in the culture.
Understand.
It's the culture of this community. They
Mhm.
don't care. Everybody is all about themselves, and that's what has made Alcoa such a difficult place to camp anymore.
Absolutely. And I agree because that weekend that we were out there last August, I even pulled up the regulations on the Parks Department and I said, you know, I have pictures of so many campers and vehicles that were unattended that were hoarding spots that weekend. And I pulled it up and it literally said, you know, you cannot leave things unattended. And so I told the sheriffs that, and he didn't believe me. He said, you know, he pretty much called me a liar. And I was like, no, it's right here. Look. And I showed him and he goes, oh, well, I wonder when that changed. Like, and I'm like, you're a sheriff, you should know this, you know? And so it's like, not everybody's on the same path, not everybody's on board together. And I think that's what needs to happen. And I don't know how you make that happen, but you know, these rules and regulations are supposed to be in effect for a reason, and they're just not. And it's just ruining it for us that have been here a long time and love doing this. So anyway. Did you have any other questions? I'm sorry, I kind of rambled on. I apologize. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Is there any other public comments? Okay, any final board comments or? I'd just like to thank you for coming out again. It's great to have the public, and I also suggest greatly to get all similar-minded campers to come out and especially to the BOCC meetings when we're talking park regs and budgetary things, because there's only so much money in the budget, and the parks funding has always been insufficient for our acreage and our user base. So the only way we can try to address that is to show the community where importance and priorities lie. Thank you very much again. And if there's no other comments or questions, then we'll close out the meeting for the evening. Oh, yeah.
How do we approach the SO is it getting these rules and regs passed through the legal and onto BOCC to get the SO on board, or how does the public
So the
Get some
proposed
help.
revisions that you guys reviewed, those went before the sheriff's office, before they came to you.
Yeah, so
So-
the SO's been involved in
Yeah,
drafting
they've
these
been
changes.
involved. Typically in the summer, they usually have 1 to 2 deputies out there to cover all that acreage. They usually, supplement that, for the big holidays for the 4th. The first come, first served camping is still, you can park multiple campers there. Reservation, the parks rules limited one camper when that was developed, and that reservation system came on board, I think 2 months after I was hired. So we're making some revisions. We've changed the cancellation to 1 day versus 7 day. That's the best we can do with our system. We're staying with this system because we didn't want to have to charge a reservation fee, or a day fee, and we're trying to, stay under what the state parks and forest service are typically charging. With that, the intent with the reservation system was to basically cut down on some of the congestion. But as you can see, the community, some of them like the congestion. So we want to provide sites that they can do that with. But I'm not sure I would have to look back at the revenue streams. I don't think the reservation system I don't think we've lost much, if any, from before the reservation system on cost or on collections. And the reservation system has its points. We don't have to handle money. We know who's there. We have identifying factors as to who was there. So if they cause a disturbance, the sheriff's office has access to that system. So they can know what vehicles there are supposed to be there. However, it's getting the sheriff's office to, they don't want to be park rangers checking permits. They want to be there to enforce laws that are broken. So that's the breakdown, and I don't know how to solve that, but I'm trying to work on those communication connections to get that to where we're more of a partnership, and so when we have an issue, a caretaker calls and this guy needs to get out of there, and maybe the deputy can come over if he's not on a higher priority call. But a lot of times it takes the public calling the sheriffs to have those things done.
So some of the issue with the SO is it because the legal department hasn't okayed the rules and regs yet and sent it to the county commissioners, or?
No, so we have current rules and regulations that were adopted in 21, and there's question of those, but those were adopted by resolution by the county commissioners, so they should be valid rules, and they should be able to be enforced by law enforcement. It's my understanding of it.
Jim, right along with that, I mean, you were on the board at the same time that I was, and the SO was involved in all those regulations. When we put everything together, they were intimately involved in what we had, and they approved everything. So I don't know what the answer is.
So basically, they can go on past rules and regs until this new rules and regs get approved.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, the current ones are, I mean, the rules
They're
are
enforced,
already
they're not
under,
sunset.
so. But
And I know, 20 years ago, a lot was different then. People, I hate to say it, people were nicer. And I believe the Parks Department in the early 2000s had a lot more staff than they do now. I believe there was a significant reduction somewhere in the 2008, 2009 timeframe, and it's never come back. So, so we struggle. We struggle to just even maintain the sites. And, even with 4 caretakers, I can't cover every campsite every day. So it's a rotation. And so that's why fire pits aren't cleaned at that time, and whatnot. And that's a problem I'm working on, trying to find more funding, trying to find people that want to work is another key factor in that. That's changed in the last 5 years significantly on people who actually want to work and do something productive. So
Can you have a conversation? Can we have a conversation with them after the rules are
With who?
codified, or however you would say it, the new rules
with
with the
who?
sheriff's office, and so that
I
we
could definitely invite them and see if we can have a sit down to have an understanding of what their expectations are and what ours are. I mean, I can ask. It's not to say that they'll come. I know Sergeant Legler came a couple months ago to our
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can definitely invite them so we can have a discussion.
I think that would be worthy, because it seems to me, from the outside looking in, that there's somewhat of a disconnect from what the public sees, what they're up against. We don't know their perspective if they don't come tell us, but, I mean, we put some time into rules, and it would seem.
And I don't disagree with the statement she said about that. So,
Yeah.
you know, they're understaffed, they're overworked.
Sure.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all.
No, I think that seems to be a representation of our challenges with our county parks is the funding required to adequately maintain and staff the services and amenities we offer to the public. And that's a very large challenge, and there's no easy answer to how to do that, because there's so many things that our county government needs to provide services to. So the budget is thin. And a lot of these things that we're comparing to, state and federal lands, they have a much larger budget base and established maintenance procedures and cultures that support things such as they're set up for hiring seasonal campground hosts or having concessionaires run the campgrounds to hire campground hosts that does a lot of the dealing with the small nuisance items that your staff is charged with now. So there's a lot of challenges with our current structure. And I think that's something the board and Parks Department needs to see what we can do with the funding that is given to the department and see if there's any opportunities for improvements, but it's not going to be an easy solution, or else we have done it already.
Well, one more thing. I'd like to really address the public. I mean, Sheila came in tonight. Sounds like she follows the rules. And I believe most of the public probably does it, but it's that percentage that has total disregard. They just don't care. They're going to do what they want. And 20 years ago, it was a lot less. 30 years ago, it was a lot less. And 40 years ago, it was almost non-existent. Everybody was polite. They worked with each other, and they were considerate of whoever's camping next to you. You know, there'd be the few outspoken ones that maybe had a few too many beers, but now it seems like everybody, it's like, I'm gonna shove my 40-foot camper here, and I don't care, and I don't care what you're doing, and I'm gonna let my dogs run loose because I don't care. I'm gonna snowshoe across the ski trails or walk on them, even though there's signs saying no dogs and no walking on trails. People don't care anymore. They're gonna do what they want to do. And I'm trying not to throw that out as a blanket to the public, but there's becomes more and more of the public that just doesn't care. They're gonna throw their stuff on the ground. Here's a prime example. I pulled into Hell's Half Acre yesterday to take a look at stuff. There's somebody dropping wasted toilet paper on the ground behind their truck and taking off because they don't care. So, and then trying to find staff that's willing to clean up that kind of mess is becoming harder and harder because these young folks that are 18, 20 years old that want a job, they want something that's pretty easy and not taxing. And really, our jobs aren't that taxing. They're just dirty jobs, is what they are. They're dirty jobs. You know, they're cleaning out houses. And I've done it. I've been out with my staff cleaning out houses, and I totally understand it's not a pretty job, but, you know, we need people to help us. And, you know, and I've raised that pay from $12 to $15 for the seasonal. And, you know, it really compared to Walmart, I probably need to raise it even more. So that's the difficulties.
Thank you, Michael. Any final board comments? Okay, then,
I think also, just for a comment, is comparing years, we've got way more people camping right now than we had in the past. And I think that's caused an issue that everyone's, especially after COVID, everyone's wanting to camp and do stuff. And I think what I've seen, Michael, is that your staff is doing what they can do, but it's just not, they just don't have enough time in the day. And we appreciate that what they're doing. It's unfortunate that they can't all get cleaned for the public.
okay. Dave, do you want to have any commission or comments?
Not tonight.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?